Today, we're talking about multiple personalities. Multiple personality disorder is when one body has several different people living inside it. In history, there is one case that is more famous than any other. An American man named William Milligan. You might not recognize that name, but his other name is very famous. Billy. So today, let me tell you the story of Billy and his 24 personalities. My name is HENRI, and I go deep on the topics everyone has questions about, but nobody takes the time to properly explain. If you want real substance instead of surface level fluff, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you see things differently. In October of 1977, in a town in Ohio, 3 robberies happened in just 10 days. According to the victims, all 3 crimes followed the same pattern. Someone grabbed them in a parking lot, forced them to drive to a bank, made them withdraw cash, took the money, and disappeared. Because the method was identical every time, and the locations were all close together, the police believed this was the same person. The technique was too smooth for an amateur. The police figured this man probably had a prior record. They pulled out mugshots of known offenders and showed them to the victims. The victims identified him almost instantly. All 3 said the same thing. That's him. That's Billy. Billy was 22 years old. 2 years earlier, he had been locked up for robbing a pharmacy. He had only been out on parole for 6 months. Police also found fingerprints on one of the victims' cars. They matched Billy's. That sealed it. They went to arrest him, and the whole thing went surprisingly smoothly. Billy did not resist at all. In fact, he looked genuinely confused. He asked, "Why are you looking for me?" When the police arrived at Billy's apartment, they noticed something strange. The place looked like several people were living there. Some areas were spotless and perfectly organized. Other areas were a complete mess. It felt like a shared apartment, except Billy lived there alone. During questioning, Billy kept insisting that he had never robbed anyone. He said if he really had done something, he sincerely apologized. The officers assumed he was faking it. For context, in 1977, even the medical community barely accepted multiple personality disorder as real. In a police station, if something strange happened during an interrogation, they usually assumed the suspect was putting on an act. So there is Billy, refusing to admit he is Billy, refusing to admit he did anything wrong. The police handcuffed him to another prisoner and sent them both to a holding facility. But when they arrived, the officers noticed something shocking. Billy's handcuffs were off. He was just sitting in the car, staring blankly, with no idea what had happened. The police asked the other prisoner how the handcuffs came off. The prisoner said he did it himself. The prisoner said this kid is something else, popped them open like it was nothing. But Billy himself had no clue it had happened. Once inside the holding facility, Billy's behavior changed dramatically. When they first arrested him, he had seemed innocent and confused. Now he became violent and aggressive. He started slamming his head against the wall. The guards were afraid he would kill himself, so they put him in a straitjacket. Then something that stunned everyone happened. He somehow got out of the straitjacket. He took it off, rolled it up into a pillow, and fell asleep. That's when the officers started thinking something is seriously off with this man. They brought in a forensic psychologist to talk to him. The psychologist asked, "What's your social security number?" Billy said, "I don't have a social security number." The psychologist said, "Isn't your number 11111?" Billy said, "That's Billy's number, not mine." The psychologist paused. "Then who are you?" He said, "My name is David." "Where's Billy?" "Billy's sleeping." "Where is he sleeping?" "Right here." The psychologist asked David, "Can I speak with Billy?" David said no. "Arthur won't allow it." Without Arthur's permission, nobody can wake Billy up. If you wake him, he'll kill himself. David kept repeating it. Billy will kill himself. Billy will kill himself. Now, I should warn you, This story gets really confusing from here. The psychologist noticed that David kept biting his own fingers and his voice sounded very childlike. So he asked, "How old are you?" David said, "I'm 8, almost 9. The psychologist said, "Okay, if I can't wake Billy without Arthur's permission, then let me talk to Arthur." David said, "Okay, I'll go get Arthur." Then something happened. He lowered his head. His eyes went blank. His lips started moving, mumbling to himself, whispering. After a moment, he raised his head again, and he was Arthur. Arthur was the one who made the psychologist a true believer because Arthur was a British gentleman. Arthur spoke with an upper-class British accent, the kind of accent that experts said could not be faked. If you haven't lived in aristocratic circles, you simply don't use those words. You don't know those speech patterns. Arthur was passionate about science and medicine. And here's something strange. Arthur was nearsighted. None of the other personalities needed glasses, only Arthur. When Arthur first appeared, he also had no idea where he was. The psychologist explained the situation. Arthur listened, then said, "If you want to wake Billy, you need permission from all of us." And right after saying that, Arthur disappeared. His head dropped, then came back up, and now he was Alan. Just like that. Alan was friendly and talkative, and he was the only personality who was right-handed. Every other personality wrote with their left hand. Alan was also the only one who smoked. It turns out Alan was a talented portrait artist. He actually drew portraits of the other personalities, including a little girl named Christine. After Alan, more personalities started appearing. Each time one came out, they'd look around confused. Where am I? Why am I here? The psychologist had to explain the situation again and again. Most of the personalities were friendly, but quiet, introverted. It was Alan, the talkative one, who finally explained how the switching worked. Alan said, "Deep inside their mind, there is a shared space, a dark room. All the personalities stand in a circle. In the center of the room, there is a single beam of light hitting the floor. Whoever steps into that light takes control of the body. But who gets to step in? Arthur decides. Everyone listens to Arthur. Every time a personality switch happens, Billy's eyes go blank. His lips start moving, mumbling. That's the personalities talking to each other. Then Arthur makes the call about who steps into the spotlight. The psychologist realized this case was beyond his expertise, so he brought in more specialists, more psychiatrists, more psychologists. Most of them did not believe multiple personality disorder was real. But after spending time with Billy, every single one of them became convinced. The switches were fast. Each personality was distinct and consistent. There was never any overlap between them. Each one was a completely separate person. After extended observation, they determined Billy had a total of 24 personalities. You might think, why not just ask Arthur how many there are? Arthur did not want to reveal all of them. Some personalities Arthur did not like. He had sealed them away, locked them up. 13 of the 24 personalities were ones Arthur had suppressed. Those only came out during recovery treatment much later. The fact that there were 24 complete and distinct personalities proved this was real. Billy was not faking it. So how can you tell if someone is faking multiple personalities? If a person only has one or two alternate personalities, it is easy to suspect they are putting on an act. I will explain more about that later. Among these 24 personalities, 23 had their own names. There were both males and females. The youngest personality was just 3 years old. The oldest was 26. Every personality had its own appearance. Different hairstyles, different hair colors, different eye colors, different facial hair, different clothing styles. How can hair color change? It is not that physical hair changes. Each personality believes they look a certain way. And the appearance of each personality was not self-described. It was described by the other personalities. The youngest personality was Christine, a 3-year-old girl with blonde hair and blue eyes. That portrait Alan drew of Christine is what he saw when he looked at her. Some of the personalities were even related to each other. Christine had an older brother who was also one of Billy's personalities. Could personalities get married to each other? In Billy's case, no. but they did influence each other. And even if they could marry, they could not have children because every personality's age stays frozen. Their condition never changes. So the 3-year-old is always 3. David, who said he was 8 and almost 9, is always 8 and almost 9. He never reaches 9. Christine had dyslexia. She could not read, but she said Arthur was teaching her letters and reading. The personalities were influencing and helping each other. The oldest personality at 26 was called the teacher. This was the only personality without a personal name. The teacher was a fusion of all 23 other personalities. Most importantly, the teacher had access to everyone's memories. Every other personality had no memory of what the others experienced. They were different people. Only the teacher remembered everything. It was because of the teacher that Billy's mystery was finally unraveled. The teacher was extremely intelligent, witty, and harmless. His job was to pass on knowledge to all the others. That is why everyone called him the teacher. They even had a kind of school inside Billy's mind where personalities taught each other things. The teacher believed that all the other 23 personalities were his puppets and that he was the real Billy. But that was not true. Billy was a separate personality and the teacher was just another one. His core personality was the one who had been sleeping all along. His memory stopped at the moment in high school when he tried to kill himself. The reason Billy was considered the core personality was because before the severe splitting happened, Billy had been the dominant personality. After his suicide attempt, the other personalities took over. Billy lost control. The personalities that came after were not split from Billy himself. They split from each other. Billy stayed asleep because everyone agreed if you wake him up, he will try to kill himself again. Would the other personalities die too? They would not realize they were dying, but they did not want Billy to die. They were all protecting him. After 3 months of working with Billy, the psychologist finally convinced Arthur to let them wake Billy up. This was the first time Billy had been awake since his suicide attempt in high school. Billy woke up in a complete panic. His first words were, "Am I dead? Where am I?" The psychologist kept reassuring him, "You are at the police station. I am here to help you, to treat you." Slowly, Billy calmed down. That was when the psychologist discovered something crucial. Billy was the only personality who did not know about the other 23. Every other personality knew Billy existed, and they all knew about each other, but Billy knew nothing. This was a major discovery. Now let me tell you about one especially important personality. When Billy met with his lawyer, a personality named Reagan appeared. Reagan was a 23-year-old man from Yugoslavia. He spoke English, Serbian, and Croatian. When he spoke English, he had a heavy Slavic accent. Reagan was an expert in weapons and hand-to-hand combat. And the most incredible thing was, he could control his own adrenaline. He could summon bursts of superhuman strength. He once shattered a toilet with his bare hands. That kind of ability you would normally associate with years of professional training. Reagan was the crisis manager. Whenever danger appeared, or when something needed to be destroyed, Reagan took over. But Reagan had one side effect. When Reagan was in control, Billy became colorblind. Not the usual kind where you cannot distinguish certain colors. Reagan's world was completely black and white, no color at all. Since only the teacher had everyone's memories, it was through the teacher that the full story of how Billy became this way finally came out. Billy was born on Valentine's Day, 1955. His father was a comedian, but a washed-up one. His mother was a nightclub singer. By the time Billy was born, his father was already unemployed. He drank every day. He gambled constantly. The family was drowning in debt. Eventually, his father could not take the pressure anymore. He killed himself. Billy was only 3 years old. His mother remarried twice. The combination of family tragedy, unstable living conditions, and stepfathers who mistreated him all made his personality splitting worse and worse. His youngest personality was 3 years old. That means the splitting started when he was just 3. Most of Billy's personality splits happened during critical moments in his life. Most. When he was 4, he made some kind of mistake and his mother yelled at him. The emotional blow was so severe, a new personality emerged. Sean, a 4-year-old boy. But Sean was deaf. Sean, he could not hear anything. Once he became Sean, his mother could scream all she wanted and he could not hear a word. Sean was a protector personality. Protector. After that, whenever someone said something Billy did not want to hear, Sean would come out, like turning off a screen. His stepfather was even worse. He beat Billy and tied him up, so Billy developed a personality called Tommy. Tommy was the one who picked the handcuffs. He was an escape artist. Through years of fighting back against his stepfather, Tommy learned every kind of lock and restraint. Tommy. So whenever Billy was tied up or in danger, Tommy would activate. Most of Billy's personalities were created during moments of difficulty or danger. And since personality ages are frozen, as Billy grew older, he could only develop more personalities, never fewer. Frozen. Some personalities had no clear connection to any event in Billy's life. Nobody knows how they were created. Some had no clear origin, like Arthur, the British gentleman, or some of the female personalities. Arthur. But up until he was 17, Billy had no idea he had multiple personalities. 17. How did he find out? He started noticing gaps, several days with no memory at all. He would suddenly appear in places he had no reason to be. Gaps. Uncontrollable time and space jumps, time would change, location would change, and he had no explanation. The terror became unbearable. Billy decided to end his life. He planned to jump off a building, and just as he was about to jump, Reagan emerged, took control, pulled him back, and saved his life. Reagan. From that moment on, Billy fell asleep, and Reagan took over. Billy's last memory was standing on that ledge, ready to jump. His next memory was being woken up in the police station. He did not really have family looking out for him. His mother kept divorcing and remarrying, and his stepfathers treated him badly. He ran away and lived alone. That is how Billy ended up where he was. Family. Now you may have forgotten about the robberies. Let me bring you back. Robberies. Before Billy fell asleep, he already had about 7 or 8 personalities. They were not destructive, they just kept taking over his body and causing memory gaps. The other dozen or so personalities developed later, starting from Reagan's emergence. Dozen. There is one more important personality to mention, a 19-year-old woman named Adelana. She was shy and introverted, but she could cook. She was good at housework, and she wrote poetry. Adelana. Arthur really did not like Adelana, so she was sealed away and only discovered much later during recovery treatment. After Billy was woken up at the police station, he had no idea about his other personalities, so the police decided to show him. They recorded video of his different personalities in action and played it back for him. Recorded. Billy watched the footage. He was devastated, and then he fell asleep again. Devastated. But that did not really matter, because it was not Billy's core personality running the show anyway. It was Reagan, Arthur, and the other stronger personalities in charge. So, which personality committed the robberies? The first time Billy robbed a pharmacy, it was Kevin. Kevin was the personality who specialized in planning and executing crimes. After Kevin got caught and went to prison, the personality switched to Reagan. Prison was a crisis, and in a crisis, Reagan showed up. Reagan served the entire prison sentence. When Billy got out, his personality switched to Adelana. Adelana was shy and gentle. She barely spoke, and she quickly found a job at a flower shop. But while working, Billy's personality suddenly switched to a male personality. He had no idea why he was working at a flower shop, and the boss fired him almost immediately. This kept happening, job after job. In the middle of working, a personality switch, confusion, then getting fired. With no steady work and no income, life got harder and harder. When things got desperate enough, Reagan came back. Reagan decided he needed money, but Reagan was not a planner. He simply walked out the door. He ended up near a parking lot and saw a woman getting out of her car. Suddenly, Adelana took over. She walked up to the woman and started a friendly conversation. Halfway through the chat, Kevin appeared. He pulled a gun, forced the woman into her car, drove to a bank, and made her withdraw cash. After grabbing the money, Billy started walking home. Halfway there, Reagan came back. Reagan's last memory had been stepping out the door. Suddenly, he was walking down the street with a fistful of cash. He had no idea where it came from, but he was thrilled. He went home. Back at the apartment, Tommy took over. Tommy saw money on the table and spent it all. A week later, Reagan returned. His last memory had been coming home with money. Now the money was gone. He searched everywhere and could not find it. So Reagan figured he would go out again. The exact same cycle repeated. Every time Reagan stepped out, he mysteriously ended up with money. Every time he came home, the money had disappeared. This happened 3 times. Reagan was the unluckiest in the loop. Tommy had the most fun spending money. Kevin was the one committing the crimes. Adelana was the one who started the conversations. 4 personalities in a loop. That is why every victim was a woman, and why every victim described the robber as seeming friendly at first. The conversation was normal, and then suddenly everything changed. The robbery itself was disturbingly smooth. Once the full picture came together, the judge and prosecutors were convinced Billy had multiple personality disorder. In 1978, the judge ruled Billy not guilty. He still had to undergo treatment, and he could not return to society until his condition was treated. Later, a reporter asked the prosecutor why he believed Billy's multiple personalities were real and not an act. The prosecutor said it came down to one thing: the accents. Every personality had a complete, consistent, and flawless accent, especially the upper-class British accent. The prosecutor said he tried to imitate it himself and could not even come close. As for why Billy had that British aristocratic accent, nobody ever figured that out. After the verdict, Billy was sent to a psychiatric hospital for treatment. The goal was not to destroy the other personalities. It was to unify them into one. They chose the teacher. The teacher was the only personality with everyone's memories. What about Billy's core personality? Billy's memories stopped at high school. He kept falling asleep. He was not functional. Even if he returned to society, he could not hold a job. He had no skills. So the treatment focused on suppressing all other personalities and letting only the teacher remain. After 10 years of treatment, when Billy was 36, the court ruled that all his personalities had been successfully unified into one. He was declared not guilty and released. In 2009, a journalist tracked him down for an interview. Billy was 54 years old by then. They asked him, "Are the other personalities really gone?" He said, "They're all still here. I can just control them now. I keep them from stepping into the spotlight." Can he really control Reagan? Controlling Reagan is not the hard part. The real challenge is controlling Arthur. Arthur is the one who decides who stands in the light. He admitted the control process was extremely painful. At first, he had to tie himself up before going to sleep. Because if a personality switch happened while he was unconscious, he would lose control completely. So before sleeping, he just had to make sure Tommy could not escape. Tommy is the escape artist. If Tommy cannot get free, the body stays put. And when the teacher personality returns, everything is normal again. But he was terrified Arthur might return while he was asleep. He was even afraid that someone saying any of the personalities' names out loud could trigger a switch. It was not easy. Not at all. Billy Milligan passed away in 2014. He was 59 years old. Alright, let me give you a quick rundown of all 24 personalities. Number 1, Billy, the core personality. His memory stops at high school. Number 2, Arthur, a British gentleman with an upper-class accent, passionate about science and medicine. He was the manager of all the personalities. Number 3, Reagan, a Yugoslav man, an expert in weapons and combat. He spoke Croatian and Serbian. He was colorblind. Number 4, Alan, talkative, the only smoker, and the only right-handed personality. Number 5, Tommy, an escape artist. He also played saxophone, painted landscapes, and was good with electronics. Number 6, Danny, A 14-year-old boy who was terrified of men. Number 7. David. An 8-year-old boy, the most sensitive personality. The others used David as a go-between when communicating with personalities they did not like. Number 8. Christine, a 3-year-old girl, very smart but had dyslexia. Number 9. Christopher, Christine's older brother. He played the harmonica. Number 10. Adelana, a 19-year-old woman. She could cook, do housework, and write poetry. Number 11. Philip, a New Yorker with a Brooklyn accent. Number 12. Kevin, a mastermind who planned and executed robberies. Number 13. Walter, an Australian with an incredible sense of direction, skilled at hunting. Number 14. April, a 19-year-old woman, a troublemaker with a Boston accent. Number 15. Samuel, an 18-year-old Jewish man, extremely devout, the only personality who believed in God. Number 16. Mark, a workaholic. He loved doing boring and repetitive tasks. Whenever there was monotonous work to be done, Mark showed up. The other personalities called him the zombie. Number 17. Steve, a master mimic. He was the only personality who refused treatment. He did not want to be erased. Number 18. Lee, a theater actor and prankster. Number 19. Jason, a personality with amnesia. In the early days, whenever Billy experienced something painful, Jason would take over and Jason would forget the pain immediately. He was crucial for emotional regulation in the beginning, but Arthur did not like him, so he was eventually sealed away. Number 20. Robert, a dreamer and adventurer. He wanted to make the world a better place, but he did not like studying. Number 21. Sean, a 4-year-old deaf boy. Whenever Billy did not want to hear something, Sean appeared. Number 22. Martin, a flashy New Yorker who dreamed of striking it rich someday. Number 23. Timothy. He worked at a flower shop. Not much is known about him. Arthur sealed him away too. Number 24. The teacher, a fusion of all the other personalities, had access to everyone's memories. 24 completely different people, each with their own talents and quirks. But why did the teacher exist? The teacher actually only appeared during recovery treatment. Some experts suspected this personality was created during the treatment process, not before it. Every other personality insisted the teacher had always been there. Were the personalities conspiring to deceive the doctors? Maybe. There is no way to know if any individual personality is telling the truth. Every person with multiple personality disorder is different. Their symptoms are different. Their personality compositions are different. In Billy's case, most of his personalities were younger than him. But some people have personalities older than themselves. And here is something fascinating. Most people with multiple personality disorder turn out to be geniuses. Billy was a genius. He could paint, play saxophone, play piano, and play harmonica. Some of his personalities were experts in medicine and science. One was a combat specialist. He spoke Croatian, Serbian, and English with multiple accents. Where did all of that come from? The accents alone suggest he absorbed an enormous amount of knowledge from somewhere. Throughout history, there have been remarkable cases. A painter named Kim Noble had 20 personalities. She did not start out as a painter, but after her personalities emerged, every one of them showed extraordinary artistic talent. Each painted in a completely different style. How did she discover her condition? In her teens, her boyfriend told her he had seen her with another man the day before. She had zero memory of it. At that point, she did not even know her boyfriend. The terror drove her to see a therapist. The therapist diagnosed multiple personality disorder. Her personality switches were extremely fast, and just like Billy, the different personalities had no shared memories. This caused enormous problems in daily life. Her main personality would go out to buy groceries. On the way, a different personality would take over. That personality had no idea about the groceries, so she would just go home. And for days, there would be no food in the house. One of her personalities had anorexia. That personality refused to eat, so she became dangerously weak. When she switched back, she had no idea why her body was so depleted. According to her therapist, Personality splitting happens because of severe childhood trauma. A complete personality gets shattered, and each fragment becomes its own person. The therapist knew childhood trauma was the cause because every time they asked about her past, the personality switches would trigger. To treat her, the therapist needed to find something all the personalities had in common. So they had her paint, and something incredible happened. Every personality showed amazing painting ability. Each one painted in a completely different style, but they could all paint. Through painting, all the personalities gradually began converging toward one person. Her condition stabilized. Based on all these cases, researchers found some common traits in people prone to developing multiple personalities. First, they care too much about what others think. Their own opinions do not matter to them. Second, they are overly dependent on others. They cannot make decisions without someone else doing it for them. Third, they cannot control their emotions, crying one moment and laughing the next. And fourth, they blame themselves for everything. No matter what happens, it is always their fault. If you have these traits, you might be more susceptible to personality splitting. So fundamentally, do not obsess over what other people say or think about you. Of course, you cannot completely ignore others either. If you go too far in that direction, you end up with a different condition entirely. What condition? It is called being a jerk. Now some of you might be thinking, I have mood swings. I cry one minute and laugh the next. Does that mean I have split personalities? The real indicator of personality splitting is not mood swings. It is memory gaps. If you experience stretches of time with no memory, like you have teleported through time and space and you have no idea what happened during those missing days, then there is a real possibility. So if you ever wake up and find yourself in the future, there are two explanations. Either you actually time traveled or your personality has split. But if you wake up in the past, then you're fine. That's definitely time travel, not a personality disorder. And if you do end up in the past, make sure you find Stephen Hawking and tell him you traveled back in time, because Hawking never believed backward time travel was possible. Here's the thing about multiple personalities. If you can control them, you're basically a genius. Think about it. Each personality can specialize in learning one thing. Some people never learn certain skills because they just don't want to. But if you have a personality who does, problem solved. Some researchers even speculate that Leonardo da Vinci might have had something like this. The man could do everything. Maybe that's why. So really, if you can control multiple personalities, you're a Renaissance man. If you can't control them, it's a disorder. That's what people mean when they say the line between genius